In answer to these questions, this book was written. The answer called for a description of 13 principles, but remember, as you read the answer, you may be seeking to the questions which have caused you to ponder over the strangeness of life, may be found in your own mind through some idea, plan, or purpose which may spring into your mind as you read. One sound idea is all that one needs to achieve success. The principles described in this book contain the best and the most practical of all that is known concerning ways and the means of creating useful ideas. Before we go any further in our approach to the description of these principles, we believe you are entitled to receive this important suggestion. When riches begin to come, they come so quickly in such great abundance that one wonders where they have been hiding during all these lean years. This is an astounding statement, and all the more so we take into consideration the powerful belief that riches comes only to those who work hard and long. When you begin to think and grow rich, you will observe the riches begin with a state of mind, with definiteness of purpose, with little or no hard work. You and every other person ought to be interested in knowing how to acquire the state of mind which will attract riches. I spent 25 years in research analyzing more than 25,000 people because I too wanted to know how wealthy people become that way. Without that research, this book could not have been written. Here, take notice of a very significant truth. The business depression started in 1929 and continued an all-time record of destruction until some time after President Roosevelt entered the office. Then the depression began to fade into nothingness. Just as an electrician in a theater rises the lights, so gradually the darkness is transmuted into light before you realize it. So did the spell of fear in the minds of people gradually fade away and become fade. Observe very closely. As soon as you master the principles of this philosophy and begin to follow the instructions for applying those principles, your financial status will begin to improve and everything you touch will begin to transmute itself into an asset for your benefit. Impossible, not at all. One of the main weaknesses of mankind is the average man's familiarity with the word impossible. He knows all the rules which will not work. He knows all the things which cannot be done. The book was written for those who seek the rules which have made others successful and are willing to stake everything on those rules. A great many years ago, I purchased a fine dictionary. The first thing I did with it was to turn the word impossible and neatly clip it out of the book. That would not be unwise thing for you to do. Success comes to those who become success conscious. Failure comes to those who indifferently allow themselves to become failure conscious. The object of this book is to help all who seek it to learn the art of changing their minds from failure consciousness to success consciousness. After weakness found in altogether too many people is the habit of measuring everything and everyone. Another weakness found in altogether many people is the habit of measuring everything and everyone by their own impression and beliefs. Some who will read this will believe that no one can think and grow rich. They cannot think in terms of riches because their thought habits have been steeped into poverty, want, misery, failure, and defeat. These unfortunate people remind me of prominent Chinese who come to America to be educated in American ways. He attended the University of Chicago. One day, President Harper met this young Oriental on the campus, stopped to chat with him for a few minutes, and asked what had impressed him as being the most noticeable characteristic of the American people. Why, the Chinaman explained, the queer slant of your eyes. Your eyes are of slant. What do you say with this Chinese? We refuse to believe that which do not we refuse to believe that which we do not understand. We foolishly believe that our own limitations are the proper measure of limitations. Sure, the other fellow's eyes are of slant because they are not the same as our own. Millions of people look at the achievements of Henry Ford after he has arrived and envy him because of his good fortune or luck or genius, or whether that they create it is that they credit for Ford's fortune. Perhaps one person in every 100,000 knows the secret of Ford's success, and those who do not are too modest or too reluctant to speak of it because of its simplicity. A single transaction will illustrate the secret perfectly. A few years back, Ford decided to produce his now famous V8 motor. He chose to build an engine with the entire 8 cylinders cast in one block and instructed his engineers to produce a design for the engine. The design was placed on paper, but engineers agreed to a man that it was simply impossible to cast an 8-cylinder gas engine block in one piece. Ford said, "Produce it anyway." But they replied, "It's impossible." "Go ahead," Ford commanded, "and stay on the job until you succeed, no matter how much time is required." The engineers went ahead. There was nothing else for them to do if they were to remain on the Ford staff. 6 months went on, nothing happened. Another 6 months passed, and still nothing happened. The engineers tried every conceivable plan to carry out the orders, but the thing seemed out of question, impossible. At the end of the year, Ford checked with his engineers, and again they informed him they had found no way to carry out these orders. "Go right ahead," said Ford. "I want it and I'll have it." They went on, and then, as if a stroke of magic, the secret was discovered. The Ford determination had won once more. This story may not be described with minute accuracy, but the sum and the substance of it is correct. Deduce from it, you who wish to think and grow rich, the secret of the Ford millions. If you can, you will not have to look very far. Henry Ford is a success because he understands and applies the principles of success. One of these is desire, knowing what one wants. Remember this fourth story as you read and pick out the lines in which the secret of his stupendous achievement have been described. If you can do this, if you can lay your finger on the particular group of principles which made Henry Ford rich, you can equal his statement in almost any call for which you are suited. You are the masters of your fate, the captain of your soul, because when Hanley wrote prophetic lines, "I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul," he should have informed us that we are the masters of our fate, the captains of our souls, because we have the power to control our thoughts. He should have told us that either in which his title earth floats, in which we move and have our being in, is a form of energy, moving at an inconceivable high rate of vibration, and that either is filled with a form of universal power which adapts itself to the nature of thoughts we hold in our minds and influences us in natural ways to transmute our thoughts into physical equivalent. If the poet had told us of this great truth, we would know why it is that we are the masters of the fate, the captains of our souls. He should have told us with great emphasis that this power makes no attempt to discriminate between destructive thoughts and constructive thoughts, that it will urge us to translate into physical reality thoughts of poverty just as quickly as it will influence us to act upon thoughts of riches. He told he should have told us too that our brains become magnetized with dominant thoughts which we hold in our minds, and by means with which no man is familiar. These magnets attract us to the forces, the people, the circumstances of life which harmonize with the nature of our dominating thoughts. He should have told us that before we accumulate riches in great abundance, we must magnetize our minds and intense desire for the riches, that we must become money conscious until desire for money drives us to create definite plans for acquiring it. But being a poet and not a philosopher, Henley contented himself by stating a great truth in poetic form, leaving these who followed him to intercept the psychological meaning of his lines. Little by little, the truth has unfolded itself until it now appears certain that the principles described in this book hold the secret of mastery over our economic fate. We are now ready to examine the first, and these principles maintain a spirit of open mindedness. And remember, as you read, they are invention of no one man. The principles were gathered from the life experiences of more than 500 men who actually accumulated riches in huge amounts. Men who began in poverty with but little education, without influence. The principles worked for these men. You can put them to work for your own enduring benefit. You will find it easy, not hard to do. Before you read the next chapter, I want you to know that it conveys factual information which might easily change your entire financial destiny, as it has definitely brought changes of stupendous portions to two people described. I want you to know also the relationship between the two men and myself is such that I could have taken no liberties with the facts even if I had wished to do so. One of them has been my closest personal friend on almost 25 years. The other is my own son. The unusual success of these two men, success which they generously accredited to the principle described in the next chapter, more than justifies this personal reference as means of emphasizing the far-flung power of principle. Almost 15 years ago, I delivered the commencement address to Salem College. I emphasize the principle described in the next chapter with so much intensity that one of the members of the graduating class definitely apportioned it and made it a part of his own philosophy. The young man is now a member of Congress and an important factor in the present administration. Just before this book went to the publisher, he wrote me a letter in which he so clearly stated his opinion of the principle outlined in the next chapter that I have chosen to publish this letter as an introduction to this chapter. It gives you an idea of the rewards to come. My dear Napoleon, my service as a member of Congress having given me an insight into the problems of men and women, I am writing to offer a suggestion which may become helpful to thousands of worthy people. With apologies, I must state that the suggestion, if acted upon, will mean several years of labor and responsibility for you, but I am enheartened to make the suggestion because I know your great love for rendering useful service. In 1922, you delivered the commencement address at Salem College when I was a member of graduating class. In that address, you planted in my mind an idea which has been responsible for the opportunity I now have to serve the people of my state and will be responsible in a very large measure for whatever success I may have in the future. The suggestion I have in mind is that you put into a book the sum and the substance of the address you delivered at Salem College, and in that way give people of America an opportunity to profit by your many years of experience and association with the men who by greatness have made America the richest nation on earth. I call as though it were yesterday the marvelous description you gave of the method of which Henry Ford, with but little schooling, without a dollar, with no influential friends, rose to great heights. I made up my mind then, even before you had finished your speech, that I would make a place for myself no matter how many difficulties I had to surmount. Thousands of young people will finish their schooling this year, and within the next few years, every one of them will be seeking just such a message of practical encouragement as the one I received from you. They will want to know where to turn, what to do to get started in life. You can tell them because you have helped to solve the problems of so many people. If there is any possible way that you can afford to render so great a service, may I offer the suggestion that you include with every book one of your personal analysis charts, in order that the purchaser of the book may have the benefit of a complete self inventory, indicating, as you indicated to me years ago, exactly what is standing in my way of success. Such a service that providing the readers of your book with a complete unbiased picture of their faults and their virtues would mean to them the difference between success and failure. the service would be priceless. Millions of people are now facing the problem of stacking a comeback because of the depression, and I speak from personal experience. When I know these earnest people would welcome the opportunity to tell you their problems and to receive your suggestions for the solution. You know the problems of those who face the necessity of beginning all over again. There are thousands of people in America today who would like to know how they can convert ideas into money. People who must start at scratch without finances and recoup their losses. If anyone can help them, you can. If you publish the book, I would like to own the first copy that comes from the press, personally autographed by you. With best wishes, believe me, Craig Jennings Randolph. Thank you.